he talks about how he was over, I don't know how many Satanists, call them churches. He was like the bishop.
You gotta be kidding me.
What was in her heart? You don't know what sin she'd committed. You don't know how much unbelief was there. You don't know whether she hated her husband.
I don't think so.
Why would anybody spend so much time ranting and raving about something that they don't believe in?
Really?
Welcome to Skeptics Brewpub with Brother Brewer. Okay, and see if we can cue the music.
All right.
Whoa. Shh. And welcome to episode 40 of Skeptics Brewpub. I'm your host, Brother Brewer. And tonight, I've got on with me, as long as this computer holds up, I've got Aiden McCool on. How you doing tonight, Aiden?
Hi. Hey, I'm doing good. And how about yourself?
Well, as long as the computer holds up, I think I'm doing all right.
Okay, great. I've got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, me too. So anyway, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about, give us a little bit of background information, who you are, what you do, that kind of thing.
Okay. My name is Aiden McCool. I am married to the vastly fabulous and vastly more well-known Marissa McCool, my lovely wife. I am a trans man, basically. I am no longer pre-T, but I still am pre-operation. So at the moment, I am a stay-at-home parent / pre-law student. Right now I'm studying to be a paralegal. From there, it's a straight jump to law school and see what kind of trouble I can't get into from there.
Oh, cool. So you said you're, let's see, you started on HRT. About how long ago was that, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, no, not at all. I started January 26th, so I am just a little bit over a month.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to do some calculations because my brother-in-law, he had to work early today, so he's comatose upstairs. He started T, I want to say it was back in November. That we were fortunate that Planned Parenthood here in Northwest Arkansas doesn't do HRT, but the one over in Tulsa does.
Oh, wow.
So, and the one in Tulsa is informed consent, so you don't have to have a letter from a therapist or anything. So,
oh, isn't that wonderful? But how far away is the one in Tulsa from where you are now?
It's actually only about 2 hours.
Oh my God.
I'm like right in the northwest corner of Arkansas, up by Walmart Mecca in Bentonville.
Right, but still 2 hours, and he has to go back whenever he runs out of testosterone. Is that right, or is he set up with prescriptions for a while?
He's set up with prescriptions for a while. I think he goes back like every 3 months for a checkup. Does the lab work here and has it sent over there. And so he only has to go back, I think, every couple of months just for to get more refills authorized. I
see. Okay. Oh, thank goodness for that. That'd be a huge inconvenience.
Yeah, it would be. It's not so bad him having to go to Tulsa because there are a few doctors here in Northwest Arkansas that would do it, but they all it became a really weird catch-22 because they required a letter from his therapist or a psychiatrist saying that he was trans and that he'd already started, going through living as the gender that he prefers, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But apparently the clinic that he is going to, his therapist, they've never done a letter like that before. So they wanted something from the doctor.
Right.
in writing on letterhead saying what the doctor wanted, but the doctor was like, why do I have to do this? No, so it became like, well, we need the letter from the doctor, but the doctor wants to know what they want to put on the letter. But the clinic says they want this, but the doctor then says something else, and it was like just going round and round.
Yeah.
Finally we got him set up though.
That's good. I'm glad he was able to, especially with that kind of situation. That I can't really imagine anything more terrifying than the doctor. A medical society that isn't that well versed with how to handle HRT situations like that. How about that?
Yeah, I got so upset at one point that I went to. There's actually a medical network. I forget what the website is for it, but it has this whole manual of how to treat transgender issues. What needs to be done as far as hormone therapy. What they would say should be required for it. And I went so far as to print it up and was going to take it down to his therapist and say, here, this is what.
Exactly.
But one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because there are a lot of the transgender rights, especially with the bathroom bills, and a lot of these. Well, at least here in Arkansas, they've also tried to pass a birth certificate law that once your gender marker is put on your birth certificate, it can't be changed.
Oh no.
So they're trying to pass that. They haven't yet. It's going through the hell that we call our legislature right now. But they're trying. But I know that in the process, we hear a lot about trans women, but the trans men aren't quite as visible. I mean, the only time that I've ever really seen or heard anything aside from my brother-in-law has been like when the bathroom issue comes up and they show a picture of Buck Angel and say, well, do you want this man in your women's room? Then don't mess with it. But you guys are really kind of the less visible side of it. So I was just kind of wanting to let any listeners out there that I've got know, what kind of things that you guys go through, even on a daily basis, because I know it's going to be a different experience from being like trans female.
Oh, certainly. That's one thing that's kind of annoyed me at least a little bit. Whenever someone hears the word transgender, the first thing their mind jumps to is someone like Caitlyn Jenner or Laverne Cox. And that's correct. They are transgender. However, no one thinks about Buck Angel immediately or Chaz Bono. I mean, a friend of mine and we were talking about it this afternoon. Oh, he was mentioned all right, but once in 2011, and people were outraged because, oh my good God, the trans man wanted to dance on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, that one still confuses me. So is that going to affect his ability to dance? I mean, at the time, I didn't know I was transgender, but I still didn't get the points. He's a guy and he wants to dance, but he was a woman once. Why is this a problem? But I think the biggest issue is that we not only have the ability to physically blend in with our cisgendered counterparts, but we are far more encouraged to. For trans men and trans women, there are a set of rules or tips for passing. Are you familiar with the term passing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. My listeners might not be, but so go ahead and explain that then. But I do know what it is.
Okay. All right. For those of you in the audience who don't know, passing is the practice by which transgender people match or see more like their, the gender that they feel that they are. So there are rules or tips for men to pass. I've seen so many strange ones, like always change your barber. It doesn't matter if you're familiar with them. Keep changing them. This way they don't catch on about who you are. There are some ones about using the men's bathroom that kind of terrify me just because you're able to see me. At the moment, I still don't look very masculine. That's the only thing that worries me. But, I mean, once I start looking more masculine, that's not going to be a problem. trans women sometimes want to do that, some don't. That all depends on how they feel, but trans women will always be more visible for that reason, because when I'm done, I'll look like I was born cis, and a lot of trans men blend in. They want to, or they feel they have to, or else they're going to be targeted or beaten or worse. And I can understand that fear, but I've already decided a long time ago that that's something that I can't do, just simply because I don't necessarily fit into the classical ideal of masculine, I guess I'd say. I like stuffed animals too much. I want to be able to say how adorable a little puppy is, stuff like that. And there's something wrong with it.
Those aren't normal things. I still sleep with my stuffed Spock bear.
Aww.
So that's not normal?
That's one of the first things that we fear, and we start to think that if we want to do stuff like that, even though other cis men do, we feel that we can't, because, oh my God, they're going to know that we were once female. Oh my God. That's
and I understand on the bathroom issue too, because there's a bar that my brother-in-law and I go to karaoke on Friday nights, and there's two separate men's rooms. One is a private men's room that he usually goes to, and the other one is not. And when he goes to that one, I usually accompany him just for safety reasons, to make sure that no one's going to mess with him or anything like that.
Oh, that's so sweet. And to know that there's a private bathroom too, that's even rare around here, which is kind of interesting. But
well, I think it was more out of the building plan than out of anything else, because this is the bar that we go to. They have two biker clubs that come in that are called the Polecats and the Booze Fighters. So it's kind of a it's kind of like Roadhouse. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
Yes, I have.
There's a sign over the urinal that says "Do not eat the big white mint."
I'm still stuck on it. Those, at least the other gang that you described, they sound like they should be like a one of those younger Yankee biker gangs from an anime or something. That's.
Oh, it is an interesting place to go. Now I know that that's an issue. Something else that Charlie runs into a lot is that he'll he smokes, so he'll get carded for cigarettes constantly. The testosterone is starting to kick in now for him, and so he's now getting mistaken for being 16. Before it was like 12.
Yeah, that's one thing my therapist has mentioned with me a lot. I decided to see my therapist for the letter and also for other reasons, so I'm continuing my therapy with her. And I was discussing my fear over using the bathroom, and especially after Sessions had rolled back the Title IX protections, I was extremely on edge by that point. And my therapist had kind of smiled and said, "There's no sign saying, transgender over your head. The only sign there is you. And most of the time, they're going to mistake you for maybe a 13-year-old boy." So, I'm too scared to go through with it myself, and I've heard varying stories, but as far as the bathrooms go, I know there is fear, and at points where other trans men will be assaulted or heavily picked on for going into the men's room. And I have at least one bathroom I've tried that out on so far, and it's worked, but that's only because no one is in there when I am, so that works out for me. But school is a big one. Where I go to school, it is very open. It is very liberal. As soon as Trump was elected, they sent around an email saying your Title VII and Title IX rights are protected. This includes transgender individuals, people with different orientations, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I mean, as a campus that open, that liberal, it still kind of gives me the willies. The guys are giving me weird looks already when I'm going into the ladies' room, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely, I can kind of understand that. I mean, if I were to try to walk into the women's room like this, it would kind of throw people off a little bit. Although I have on accident at times, just not paying attention to the signs, like, oops. But then again, I have ADHD, so I just never pay attention to anything hardly.
Oh, so you do too. Oh no, I understand what that's like. I do.
My son inherited it from me too, and it's been interesting.
No.
But at least for him, he got diagnosed when he was 7, so he's been on medication now for about 2 years. I didn't get diagnosed until I was 38.
Oh, hey, I wasn't diagnosed till I was 20. Don't feel bad.
I tell you, once I started on medication, it made a world of difference. I mean, it was like night and day.
Wasn't it? I don't know about you, but it finally felt like the many voices in my head finally stopped. That's how I've always described it. I've got one too many thoughts flying around in my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of like somebody put the VCR on fast forward and just let it run.
Yes, exactly.
Like at work at times, people are still amazed at me because I'll have I have 2 monitors running at work, kind of like I do here. Yeah. And one of them I'll have one program running, and this one over here I'll have 4 other programs running and still be keeping track of all of it. And, just because if I try to focus on just one thing, I know I'm going to space out. But if I've got all these things that I can switch back and forth to, then I'm happy.
Oh no, I understand entirely. I'm bad though. I usually have to focus on one thing because if I focus on too many, then I get completely distracted, and all of a sudden I'm mixing up my work, and it's terrible.
Yeah. So I'm back to the other subject. How is it up there in Pennsylvania? Because I know here in Arkansas, anytime that our legislature meets, which is like every 2 years, it's like an absolute hell because it's ultra right-wing conservative folks that are trying to just throw everything to the wall and hope it sticks. But this year in particular has been really, really buggy.
Yeah. It's kind of night and day as far as the legislature and the constituents go. I know this analogy gets used a lot. You're familiar with the term Pennsyltucky, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, since our state capital is in the middle of Pennsyltucky, that's kind of what it is. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are a little more liberal than we are in a lot of ways, and the rest of the area is just conservatives. I mean, all of them. But we seem to be lucky in a way because we have a Democratic governor that is fighting against a legislature that is mostly conservative. Through him, we've seen an increase in Narcan. We now have officers that can carry it around when they're called on duty for heroin overdoses, which has been a huge problem in the States. That's become a thing. Healthcare, the governor is fighting pretty hard for that. He also is against heartbeat bills or closing down any more Planned Parenthood facilities, which I really like. What else? The most amazing thing is our Surgeon General, which he nominated himself, is a transgender woman. So as far as any serious or discriminatory bills getting through without him vetoing, that blows it right out of the water. I mean, that's our Surgeon General, and if if the governor is this for no heartbeat bills, equal health care for women in rural areas, I highly doubt that he would allow any discriminatory or bathroom bill or anything like that. So it's kind of like yeah, I don't like all of you conservatives because you hate me, but I'm going to stand behind him, okay?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we have actually, I would call him more of a moderate Republican. I know they're very few and far between anymore.
Right.
That at least he thinks with his wallet.
Oh.
Bible. So some of these things like the bathroom bills, he's already said that those are a non-starter, and that's because the corporations that are here in the state, like Walmart, Tyson's, JB Hunt, people that are just doing multinational stuff, and they're trying to recruit people from across the country to come to Arkansas to work, and having these bathroom bills and marriage laws and all this other stuff in the way really hurts business. And he's a big fan of business. But this year, one bill that was in our legislature, and it just got passed, was to make the Bible the state book. So we know we're going to court over that one.
Oh, God.
They have another one that's in committee to go back to set the marriage laws back to what they were before the Oberfeld decision. So that's going to cause us a lawsuit. They've decided that privately funded monuments on the state capitol are okay. So there's going to be another 10 Commandments monument come up that Senator Jason Rapert sponsored the bill for and did a GoFundMe to do. But then the Satanic Temple in Tulsa got into it, and they tried to get a Baphomet statue up. And immediately, within a week of it getting through the planning committee, and the planning committee said it's okay, we have to, because otherwise we're going to get sued. The legislature said, oh, well, now anything already passed us, the 10 Commandments monument, anything else we have to approve before it can go up. So that just put the kibosh on everything else. So there's another lawsuit. Arkansas loses so much money to these stupid lawsuits. It's not even funny. And it's horrible.
I am continually baffled. I know that I'm exposed to law and most of its aspects, and constitutional law as well on a regular basis. But even I know that a good number of us in high school had civics class, which went over the Constitution. Now, I can understand that in some states it can vary on education and requirements to be a legislature, a representative, but I'm pretty sure you need to have at least a firm grasp on the 10 Commandments. Am I wrong here? Did no one attend that class? Do we really need to have like a 10 Amendments NU refresher course?
I think we do, unfortunately, because here their idea of religious freedom is Christians are free to do what they want. That's pretty much what they go by here. There is actually, in Arkansas politics, there's a holy trinity that you have to touch on in order to get elected into office. That's God, guns, and gays. If you touch on those three subjects, you're going to get elected into office.
Oh dear God, that's disgusting.
The guys, they're crazy. I don't. Rapert, for me, he's my personal punching bag, because he's just the worst of them. But the majority of them, there's a lot of them that are pretty bad. We had the medical marijuana passed in Arkansas finally.
All right.
So what the legislature's been trying to do now, Jason Rapert has been all about, giving Arkansans what they want, and being the people's voice when it came to marriage. The marriage equality stuff, and he is one of the guys that sponsored this new bill going through.
Right.
But when it comes to medical marijuana, that a very substantial majority of Arkansans voted for, oh no, that's we can't have that. That's no. So it's as long as the will of the people goes with what he believes his Bible says, he's okay with it.
That don't make no sense.
Exactly.
Oh man.
Well, you have to remember the Duggars are from here too, so that
is very true. I did almost forget that.
Yeah, they're actually just about 20 minutes from here.
Yikes! I've kind of fallen fallen out of that a while ago, years ago, actually. I mean, I know she tried again. Have they still been trying, or have they finally stopped?
If she winds up getting pregnant again, then they'll keep going. They refuse to use any kind of birth control. So if it happens, then yeah. I'm just surprised she doesn't walk down the hall and have her uterus fall out into the floor. That's kind of drag on.
I'm right there with you. I've kind of expected that to happen as well. Oh man, fundamentalists like that, I will fully admit, kind of give me the creeps.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of people that are in politics in Arkansas.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're in Pennsylvania. I know you guys have had a few, at least on the Kentucky side of Pennsylvania, you guys have got like the Art Park going on. Like Ken Ham's Dinosaur Emporium. Have you guys had the misfortune of actually visiting that site yet?
Unfortunately, no, we have not. Riss's brother-in-law went a few years ago, and I'd remembered him saying it was hysterical. I have heard all about it, but unfortunately, I haven't gone, not yet.
Well, I've heard that they've added a diorama in there now. It's like a gladiator combat style little statuette thing that has people and giants and dinosaurs fighting in like this whole free-for-all thing, and he's trying to convince people that that's what the earth was like before the flood.
That never ceases to make me crack up. I pictured it in my head and I laughed, and then I saw a picture of the diorama and it was far better than I imagined.
Exactly. Oh, but yeah, Arkansas is just kind of a weird state. I mean, it's because it's right on the north and south border, and it's just over the Mississippi. You know, it's just west enough that there was a lot of the frontier independence and stuff, but it's just south enough that there was still a lot of the southern bigotry that's still here. So, and somehow this whole crazy evangelical strain Bible thumping stuff just took hold here and won't let go.
Yeah, that's something I've seen all over the place. There's a bit of one here, and yeah, I did run into a lot of people who must have been from your area before now. Well, actually, before September, I worked 3 years it was basically like Jiffy Lube for trucks. So I saw a lot of drivers from all over the country, and I don't know, you could kind of tell if they were from that area just by the way they walked in, usually very neatly pressed, softly spoken. Usually the person that writes God or Jesus saves on the comm check before I take it for payment. Like, oh, great.
Yeah, thanks. Now you're also are you also an atheist like a lot of folks, or are you still a believer?
I am an atheist. It took me a long time to finally come to terms with that since my mother's Catholic, but seeing as I was never baptized, and I think it was about a year and a half ago where I finally hit my point and I thought, that's it. You know what? No. And the thought used to terrify me whenever I would think I was an atheist. And this was back during the Bush era, so, you know, anyone that wasn't God-fearing was the devil. So it was a scary thought back then, but I'd come to terms with it and realized that I really don't need a religious figurehead or a book or someone to tell me that I am the reason that, you know, humanity is suffering so much. Yeah, thanks for that. To make me behave like a good person, I can still be that without having to believe in a religion. That's not to say that I'm militant or hate anyone that has their faith. I support that. If someone else comes across me and they have their faith, fantastic. Go ahead. Believe in it. Just please respect my beliefs too, and don't try to push yours on me, you know?
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, which was harder for you? Was it harder to come out trans or come out atheist? Which one was the most difficult for you?
It was coming out trans by far. I always feel kind of strange admitting it, but I started questioning myself after Marissa came out to me. I had seen how happy she was, and I'd begun to notice more and more that she enjoyed doing the things that I didn't, like small talk with other girls, or putting on makeup, which I always found to be a daunting task, or even pretending to be feminine. I mean, she is feminine. She's fantastic at it. It's always felt extremely exhausting to me. And I felt, I'll admit it, for a long time, I felt like I was doing it just because that was what was going on around me. And I remember questioning myself for months and months and months. You don't like that. You're a girl, I used to tell myself. And I would suddenly begin to think, no, I don't think you are. But I was too terrified to admit at the time that I was male. I didn't want to think about. So, and I didn't know how to handle that information. I didn't even plan on telling Riss. Why, I don't know. I was terrified back then, and it slipped out. She had just won a student film festival, and we were celebrating, and she also had some roommates over that were looking to rent one of the empty rooms that they had, and these two were identified as trans. They were being nice, and I had some beer. This was back when I was 21 and had absolutely no tolerance. And one of the roommates had looked over at me and very casually, very politely said, "So, what pronouns do you like to be identified as?" And it slipped out, "Oh, he, she, them, and I saw the look on Rissa's face and I thought, oh, shit. Why did I just do that?
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my next question was, when, I mean, I'm sure that you always knew, but when was it like an epiphany moment all of a sudden, or, that, oh shit, I am, or was it more of a gradual kind of just growing into that, because it's something that's part of it that I'm curious about, because I mean, just the whole process, because it's something that I've never experienced, but I want to know about it. I want to understand it, I guess. So I ask people about, when at what point was it that you knew? And well, that's basically it. At what point did you just know?
It's been a growing in process, and it's still going on right now. I think I'd known for the better part of my own childhood. I was always told to, don't run around at recess. If you're going to do that, stay off of the jungle gym. If you're going to wear a dress with tights, don't run. That's a nice dress. Act like a lady. I was told that quite a bit, and I felt kind of awkward about it as a kid, and when I was a teenager, that became a little more grudging on me. I didn't know what it was for the longest time, but I can remember when I was basically a junior. No, I wasn't a junior. I was a sophomore, and for a few years I had been in a gothic phase. No fishnets or anything like that, but dark, black band T-shirts and moody music. It was nice. I wasn't harming myself, but it felt nice, and I remember feeling out of place with the people that my clothes attracted, but I didn't feel comfortable with the alternative. And I remember talking myself into it. This was fun, but this was juvenile. You need to give this up. You need to grow up. And I can still remember we were in an American Eagle. It was my mom and I had on a shirt, and I remember looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, I don't recognize that person. Why does this look good on me? And I remember seeing my mom's face over my shoulder and her saying, don't you look so lovely in that? And I thought, no, I don't. And I didn't know why. And there have been moments since then when I first put on a binder and saw how flat my chest looked compared to how it always looked to me. It looked great. When Riss and my friends would start using male pronouns, that felt better. A really big epiphany moment was about a year ago. I was listening to the Gaytheist Manifesto. Callie had on 3 guests who were trans men. One was post-op and on T for years. One was post-T and had just had top surgery, and one was pre-everything. And that was the first time that I realized that there were surgery options for trans men. I didn't know that. And honestly, that was the first time that I ever experienced penis envy. And I thought, oh my God, this is possible and it'll work. And oh my God, okay, I think I need to look into transitioning. And it just went from there. I realized that I did like the idea of being male, and Riss only indulged me even further. And medically speaking, I'm jumping back here a little bit, but I always love this. Before I even started T, I had noticed that my body had already begun to change, which I find interesting entirely. My method of birth control switched. I went off the pill and went on to a device that was inserted. I won't get into any details, but it has no hormones. So it's been almost a year, but the estrogen that I had in my system stopped. And it, I kind of gradually fell into line before I started T. And that was another one. Before I started T, I had a learning disability in math. I just couldn't grip the application. It annoyed me, and no matter how hard I tried, it always happened. But okay, now it has been exactly a month. About a month ago, my daughter had asked me for help with her homework, and it was long division. And I thought, yeah, sure, fine. I'll see if I can't do that. It can't be that hard. It took me a few tries to remember how to do it, but once I remembered how to do it, I did it, and I did it right, and I was able to do the others right without a calculator, without having to double guess. And I realized it then, holy shit, I understand how to do math now. People always think that's sexist, and I don't mean to be. It's not that. It's just that my brain is finally wired correctly. And
no, I still suck at math.
See, finally someone understands my point. I am not trying to be sexist. I'm not trying to pull the math is hard thing. No.
No, because my wife is the accountant in our family. She handles all of the money. She handles all of that side of it, because I'm the kind of person, I can't be overdrawn. I've still got checks.
Me too. The last big moment I had was when Marissa was in the vagina monologues 2 weeks ago. I mean, the play itself is lovely, and I'm always happy to support women in their struggle and risk whenever she's on stage. But that was the first time that I listened to the stories, and I realized that I never identified as female. No matter how hard I tried, I could not identify with any of their stories, no matter how moving. So it's always one of those, oh, so that's what this means, like learning something new every day.
Okay, cool. I was going to ask you too. How do you like your new privilege card? I mean, does that come in here?
I haven't really used it. I'll admit that. And it seems that I don't really have a privilege card. I have a gigantic guilt card, and I don't like it. Because as soon as Riss and I both started transitioning, I began to see it more and more, the sexism, the misogyny, fear over rape, all those things. Since Trump's been elected, I've noticed that misogynists have been out in full force, and I've seen that women who aren't putting up with it being out in full force, and I support that entirely. But the only problem is I'm now grouped in with everyone else, when I'm trying to say, when I hear, men are pigs, and I try to say, excuse me, I'm sorry, but that's not necessarily true. Please don't call me a pig until you get to know me. And all of a sudden I get my head bitten off because, you just said not all men. Cool. Okay. No.
Yeah, that one was a hard one that's one's been a hard one for me to come to grips with, is that not all men trope that we all like to use. I mean, I've learned since then that you can't do that. Get upset about that. But then I think about it and it's like, well, I hear that if I say something about Christianity, when I'm talking about, well, the Christians in our legislature want to do this and that, and one of my friends who happens to be a liberal Christian will go, well, not all Christians are like that. And I'm like, I'm not talking about you. Would you just let me vent?
Exactly. That's another reason why I know that I won't be able to pass entirely, nor do I really want to, but even before I started tea, I had begun to realize, I'd even read an article, it was about trans men who had already transitioned and how they view sexism differently now since they're seen as men. And that kind of stopped me right there. And I thought, I'll never be able to prove that if I stop that myself. So I'm going to be one of those obnoxious guys. I don't know how that's going to go for me, but, doing the regular men tropes or anything like that, just so I can prove that, yeah, this way I can say not all men, because I'm not trying to be a douche canoe.
Yeah, I run into that. I just, for the most part, on my end, I just let people rant, and I just nod my head along, and yeah, I understand, I get you. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think that in one sense, that's also, as much as it grates against me because I want to scream, but I'm not like that. It's that they know you're not, and whenever you say that, not all, it's almost like on one level you're kind of delegitimizing their feelings, because it's, because when you do that, all of a sudden to them, what they hear is, well, that's not everybody. What you're saying is not really important, or it is not really as big a deal as you think it is. And so I think that's part of what it comes at it from that end.
I can admit I didn't quite consider that, and all right, I can concede there. I mean, if they need to vent, go ahead. I mean,
I think it was Alex Jules when he was talking about the Black Lives Matter with movement with David Smalley on Dogma Debate, and Smalley kept coming up with the well, I'm not like that, and not all white people are like this and that, and he finally Alex stopped him and said, look, you have to understand that you've had your turn, you've had your time to speak up, and now it's our turn. So what we're telling you is what we are experiencing, and you need to listen, and you need to try to understand, and not just say, well, I don't do that, because it's still something that we face daily. And when you tell us that you're not like that, it's, it's like you're trying to pull the rug out from under us, and you're trying to make it about you when it's not about you.
Yeah, that's one thing that Riss usually says, and it always makes me laugh. It's not about you, but.
But I guess right at this point, I know some folks are probably chomping at the bit to find out who the Bozo is going to be for this week. And I will say that once again, that nominations for Donald Trump will not be considered. He is the Bozo emeritus.
Yeah.
There is nothing that man can do. He's always going to be a Bozo, so it's too easy. He would always win it every week. So we just leave him as Bozo emeritus off to the side. But I did have a few folks. Did you come up with someone on your end that you thought was douchey enough to maybe get the Bozo Award this week?
Well, like I told you before, unfortunately, I've been on vacation, so I really need to catch up. But seeing as this this group's douchiness knows no bounds, especially to me at the moment, my choice is still going to be the University Interscholastic League that's based out of Texas. And yes, it is exactly for the reason that everyone thinks. I think his last name is Briggs, the young man who just won the the girls' wrestling tournament.
Yes.
I would be able to understand their argument from a legal standpoint if they had actually regarded it, but this young man had actually taken the steps to say 2 years prior to this tournament that he was going to transition. He has 2 years worth of testosterone in his system. There's no way that he is going to be able to wrestle girls fairly, and it is mind-blowing that any association would have to go by their binding rules by saying, well, it says you're female on your marker, so you should still have to wrestle girls. When everyone's seen pictures of him, he doesn't look like a girl anymore. He's not going to wrestle the same, and all of those threats that he and his family got because, hey, you're cheating against my kid, and my kid should be able to do that too, and you people just don't get it. Ugh.
Yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's actually a state law in Texas because they wanted to prevent, their rationale, they said, was that they wanted to prevent boys from going out for the girls' teams. So they wanted to prevent girls from going out for the boys' teams and getting hurt, etc. So there is actually a state law in place that says that he had to wrestle with the girls because of his gender marker, which I think is still bullshit, but
oh yeah,
that's Texas. Well, I had a couple actually. Actually, I've got about 4 before I get to my good news. The first one is Representative Steve King, the Republican out of Potato Land. He decided to let his racism show Sunday on the Sunday circuit. Talking about not wanting to let Muslims into our country unless they're willing to assimilate. And he said, I'd like to see an America that's just so homogenous that we all look the same from that perspective. Let's say what? And so he's been catching a lot of flack for that and has actually doubled down since then. But so he's one of my nominees there. I believe he's also the representative that put out the House bill House Bill 610. Have you heard of that one?
I think I have, but please do describe it just to refresh my memory.
Well, what House Bill 510, if passed, would do is make the Department of Education basically a voucher-giving organization. It takes away the entire Education Act from the 60s, which takes away all Title I through Title IX protections, all of them in one shot. A few of my friends are upset because it also rolls back Michelle Obama's nutrition standards that she fought so hard for. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But this other part here is worse. We're dealing with education. It's Betsy DeVos's dream is, because the way that they described it was that they would that the Department of Education would just give money to the school districts, but they wouldn't give it to the schools in the district. They would give it to the parents in the school districts to pay either the public school or to use that money towards going to a private school. It basically creates a national voucher system.
Oh, yeah, because that's exactly what the parents of the United States are going to do. No, that's not. Oh, my good God. Wow.
Yeah, so he's up there. The next one was Representative Jason Chafferts out of Mormonville. He believes that healthcare costs can be saved up for if you stop buying iPhones. He said his quote is, maybe rather than getting a new iPhone that they just love and they want to go spend hundreds of dollars on that, maybe they should invest in their own health care, because God forbid that poor people actually have something nice.
I've been dying to say this ever since I heard it, but some of the words in that argument you could replace with something else, and it would sound exactly like the argument for people who are on assistance or food stamps. Well, if you people would stop spending hundreds of dollars on an iPhone, maybe you'd be able to have money for food. And so I say soundly, go fuck yourself, sir.
Yes. So, but he's the next one. The new head of the EPA, Scott Pruitt, got in a little bit of trouble last week. because he made a claim that the jury is still out on whether or not CO2 is influencing global warming. And he said that that the scientific consensus is not certain that it's the CO2 emissions that are causing global warming, even though 98% of the scientists out there say, yes, it is.
Oh, are we going back to the animal farts argument that we used to have in the 80s?
I think we are, because he's wanting to roll back a lot of the protections that the EPA has put in place, and basically just, if you look at the way the EPA's mission statement has changed since Trump took over, and they put Scott Pruitt in, who was the Attorney General for Oklahoma before he got promoted, he has changed it to read more like that the EPA is there to help business interests and with environment, and not so much to take care of the environment. So, go ahead.
Sorry. I would like to say at this moment that for every person who is a Trump supporter and looked at me with a cocky grin on their face and said, we need someone who will run this place like a business, are you not satisfied now?
This is how they run a business.
Yep, got what you wanted.
Yep. Amazingly enough, and I just keep, the ones that I really love is like the people that were screaming, that Trump was going to take care of the affordability, the ACA, the Obamacare. Yeah. And then they find out that Obamacare is the ACA finally, and that they're actually going to repeal it, and they're not going to have health care anymore. And they're like, well, wait a minute. No, you can't. You voted for it.
You voted for him.
Yep. And then my last one is actually a local one.
Okay.
One of our state representatives, her name is Mary Bentley. She's from Assholistan. She's trying to bully Arkansas Tech University for having a one-day public sex ed forum on their campus out on the student lawn. And it was basically set up like a fair. You could go to different booths and different places and talk about issues related to sex education, birth control, abortion options, LGBT issues. I mean, just they're everything nice and neat. And these are adults basically. These are college campus. And she was worried that her constituency was saying that this was a bad thing. One problem with that was that her district is down in Hot Springs, which is about 4 hours away from Arkansas Tech. So it's not even affecting her constituency, but she's very upset about it. And she has been bullying to try to pull funding from the school's diversity fund because she's upset about this. And it's like, okay.
Is this the hill you really want to die on?
Here they would. I mean, I still get into the discussions with other parents that, well, I don't want schools teaching my 12-year-old about sex. Are you going to do it? Are you going to have that conversation? Are you going to sit there and explain to them how their bodies work and all of the detail of this? Or are you going to let them have this in a science class? Because that's basically what they're doing. I mean, it's not like they're out there and they invite a couple of guys in to go, hey, butt sex is fun. You should all try it. Matter of fact, everybody, we'll just go ahead and pair off. That's not what's happening.
So it can be kind of like the sex ed class in like Mean Girls, Okay, so if you have sex before marriage, you die. Okay, all right, everyone, take a condom.
Pretty much, yeah. My sex ed from my father was basically, let's see, it was your mom found a condom in your wallet when she was doing the laundry. Now, I used to carry a condom in my wallet too, but I never used it. Okay, are you saying that you didn't practice safe sex or that you didn't have sex? Blank here. Throw your phone. But yeah, here it's really, sex in general is just a really touchy subject. I mean, it's really weird how many hangups people in Arkansas have, but I think it's second only to Mississippi and Utah in Pornhub subscriptions.
I'd believe that.
But I did have some good news on the news front here in Arkansas.
Oh.
Well, actually, even in Texas, where we were just talking about. Apparently, in Central Texas, they have opened up the first free transgender clinic.
Yes, I heard about that.
Specifically for transgender issues, and it's going to be a free clinic. So
Yes.
I thought that was awesome.
Definitely, that's fantastic news.
Yeah, especially coming out of Texas.
Yeah.
And here in Arkansas, I think that Pope Francis is probably going to have palpitations in the Vatican because the Daughters of Charity, which is a Catholic organization, just donated $50,000 to Lucy's Place, which is an Arkansas charity group that focuses on helping out homeless LGBT teens. I mean, that's what they do is they work with LGBT teens, and this Catholic organization just donated $50,000 to them. Just here, you do with that what you want.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So there is hope. And then the third thing that hit was that one of my least favorite national representatives, our embarrassment, Senator Tom Cotton, the Scarecrow. Yeah, he apparently got the message from his town hall. He showed up here he had to change the venue 3 times. It was kind of like playing a shell game. Okay, now find the senator. He's over here. No, he's got to go here. No, he's over at this side. But they finally got him into a place. And he just got grilled for like an hour and a half straight of people just telling him, you need to go after Trump for this and that. And, what about the ACA? And what about, these deportations with Trump's deportation bill? It's a bad idea because of this. And just got hammered. And I guess some of it finally got through because this weekend when he was doing his circuit, he was urging the House of Representatives not to be really hasty on voting for a health care bill that won't pass the Senate. So that puts him in direct opposition with most of his party and with House Speaker Paul Ryan, who's been trying to say that this new health care plan is such a great idea. So I think Cotton at least got the message, and he's trying to put out at least a little bit of a nicer face than he has recently.
I love when that happens.
I don't know if you're familiar with Tom Cotton too much. He's made national headlines a couple of times.
The name sounds familiar, but unfortunately, with everything that's been going on, it all kind of runs together anymore. But I think I had heard about him. Either it was him or it was Conley that had to change venue a few times. I know Conley had run from his own constituents, like right in front of them, but I had been hearing about that. I can say it's badass to hear Sanders say, get in the town halls, do your job, which always makes me laugh because that's what a representative has to do. You represent our interests, and how they don't like that. Oh, these people are being mean and they're yelling at them and everything. Yes, that's because you were going against the interests of the people that put you there in the first place. What did you think was going to happen?
Oh, don't tell that to Congressman Steve Womack. Yeah, he did his town hall and he was a straight up asshole. Yeah. He told the people that were there. First of all, the venue that he was at got packed. I mean, it was just standing room only, and there were another 400 people outside the building wanting to get in and hear him talk. And they were like, "Well, why don't we move this outside?" And he says, "No, just this is fine." At one point, he told people that he didn't believe that they were the people that voted for him, and the people that did not vote for him were not his constituents, and he didn't care about them. And he also said that, well, he gave that you voted for Trump. You're just going to have to deal with it. Just nothing we can do. So, yeah, he's an asshole.
I'll bet his seat is up for re-election in 2 years. If so, then my goodness, 2018 is going to be a fantastic year for seat switching parties.
I wish, but he has run unopposed now twice. Unopposed. Nobody. Well, we had a libertarian run against him this year, but I mean, there has been nobody that has run against him yet for the Democrats. It's like no contest.
Yeah,
welcome to Trumpistan.
No. We can't have that. I think that should go hand in hand with votes. You should go out there and vote. I know that votes don't matter so much anymore, but hey, instead of just going out there and voting, why not someone else please run for office?
Yeah, throw us some candidates that we can actually vote for.
Please.
You know, I mean, that was the thing. That was one of the things I think with that the Democrats still haven't learned their lesson with Hillary, was that Hillary was great. She's a great politician. She's a wonderful politician. She gets stuff done, but she's not voter friendly. I mean, there's just too much baggage for her to have. You know, they should have realized when Barack Obama beat her as a rookie senator that it wasn't going to work, but they just had to keep throwing it out there. And it seems like they're still throwing out what they think should run and not listening to the party saying, wait, no. You know, I mean, because there was a groundswell for Sanders at the start. And even though he's like a Democrat, only because that's how he could run for president. But I mean, a lot of people supported him, but the establishment was like, no, we're not gonna, we're not even gonna go there.
No, and that's the sad thing. It wasn't last semester, but last year I had government, and my teacher was a former lobbyist. I mean, I can even believe it too. He had legitimate stories about him meeting Bill Clinton in person and how he was not happy to see my teacher. And he had basically said that even though everyone in the class supported Bernie, it probably wasn't going to happen. And I could kind of see why. Sanders had fantastic ideas, and I was pulling for him hard. I really was. I thought he would have done a great job, but against that and how many people who hated Hillary and all of the conservatives who were convinced that, and this is just my personal observation, they had to be convinced that Bernie was a Jewish wizard communist or something like that, because they were not going to let that socialism happen, damn it.
Yep, I think so. And did you hear also that apparently as atheists, we're better parents than anybody else? That was another thing that I happened to see. This came out of Jezebel.com, so I can't vouch for its authenticity. But there was a social scientist who was saying that because atheists are moral, but they're not tied to a religion, that they're able to teach their kids to be more inclusive, more diverse. There's more diversity going on in there, so they do a better job of parenting overall than more religious people who have the tighter, the tighter ideologies and such. So I thought that was at least some interesting news. It may not be true, but it made me feel better.
I had not heard that, but I think it's certainly interesting to hear. And I don't know if this has been happening out in Arkansas, but I've already heard of at least three child deaths within a week and a half due to faith healing. They didn't get their children with life-threatening diseases or illnesses to medical care on time because they thought faith was going to heal them. I'm not saying, religious parents do that, but that certainly doesn't hurt our case,
Yeah, well, we haven't had anybody that stupid yet. I know that's not saying much for Arkansas, but I mean, even my uber Pentecostal stepmom will still go to the doctor when she's sick. I mean, she knows that praying and stuff is one thing, but if you're sick, you need to go see the doctor. Their ideology is that, well, God gave us doctors for a reason. So, sometimes that's how God works, is that he made the doctor so that the doctor can give you the medicine.
Now that's a brilliant way of looking at it.
Yeah, I thought that was really convenient there on that part,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and one other thing, I think people's hearts everywhere are breaking, including mine, because Colton Hayes' boyfriend proposed over the weekend while they were apparently on a Skype video with Cher. And he said yes, and so he's now off the market, and it just breaks my heart. I'm going to need a minute.
My condolences.
Yeah, Very
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off.
no, that's okay.
I have to admit, I at least have to give his boyfriend some props because he has officially got more game than I did. Why did I not think of anything like that when I proposed to my wife, you know?
Or yeah, me either. I mean, honestly, for me and Chris, we're still trying to figure out who proposed to who. I mean, it just we're suddenly just like, well, what if, you know, and it's talking, and then the next thing that either one of us knows, we're talking about planning a wedding, and then the rest of it was her mother's fault because we were in a restaurant and she calls her mom and says, well, we were thinking about doing something in November because that would have been a year after we met, but he wants to get married in Arkansas and it's really cold as hell in November in Arkansas. So we were thinking maybe like July, the summertime, you know, maybe to do something like that. And her mom says, well, why don't you just get married tonight? Okay. Okay, get your coat on. Let's go. So 11:30, we showed up at the Justice of the Peace. I was in my Navy working blues. She'd put on it was a formal dress that she'd bought for some other affair, and her mom was along with us, and we were one witness short for the marriage license because in North Carolina you have to have two witnesses sign. There was another married couple that had just left, and their I guess it was the groom's in-laws were with them, and I kind of poked my head out of the Justice of the Peace office and said, excuse me, can we borrow y'all for just a minute? We need one more witness. And the guy looks at his wife and says, come on, honey, we're going to another wedding.
Yay!
And 17 years later, here we are.
Aww. Proposed to Riss through text message.
Awesome. I like it.
Well, we had already talked about it, and she had already said that yes, when I propose or when she proposes, we were joking with each other. I'm going to propose to you first. No, I'm going to do it first. And I'd had a plan and everything, and we were at Teco, and I decided that they had a ring, you know, personalized ring stand there, so you could put whatever you wanted on there. And I thought, oh, that's cute. Wouldn't that be adorable for her? And nah, I'm not gonna. Well. Maybe. So I made sure it was Elvish. I put one of her favorite quotes on there, and I had the ring, and I thought, okay, this is great. The only problem is I'm impulsive. So I thought, okay, I have the ring. No, don't ask her tonight. Don't. Okay, fine. I'm going to ask her tonight. And she didn't want anyone to know, and we were sharing a room with our roommate and his girlfriend. We had gotten ahead of them, and I thought, okay, this is it. So I told her, okay, when we get back up to the room, I have something for you. She was suspicious, but we got up there and I thought, okay, this is perfect. And she had to use the bathroom. Unfortunately, by the time that she was finished, our roommates had made it back up. And I thought, great. Am I going to? And I thought it was so tacky, so pathetic, like breaking up with someone or asking them out through email. And I just thought, okay, fine, whatever. And so she laid down on the bed next to me. I sent the message. I heard her phone go off. She looks at it, and she looks at me, and I'm holding a ring, and she just looks at me like this. This look of just disbelief, like, are you serious?
Well, I have to admit, that's probably one of the better text messages you could get from your boyfriend. I mean, you know. It's not the whole I think we should see other people text. That's that. So, you know, at least you got that.
You've got me there. Yeah.
But that really is sweet.
The weird part is I beat her by 1 day.
Ah. Okay. Still won. So that's the plus there.
Exactly. Oh, man.
Oh, man. Well, it looks like it's about time for me to wrap this up because I don't know about you, but I do have work in the morning, so I've got to kind of cut it short. But
yeah,
it has been great talking to you. If people want to know more about you, or maybe do you have a Facebook or anything like that people can follow you?
Yes, actually, I do. I am on Facebook under Aiden Xavier McCool. Xavier spells with an X. There's no E, so don't bother. If you want to make it easy on yourself, if you're already friends with Marissa Electa McCool, my my wife, I'm listed under there as her spouse, so it won't be that hard to find. And I guess it's kind of worth a shot. I have a blog as well on WordPress. It's called the Human Rights FTM. I'll admit it's long rambling posts about law and most of the time transgender rights. But if anyone's interested, please check me out on WordPress.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to check that out. And if you can send me the link so I can put them in the show notes here in a little bit, and then that way people can go ahead and follow on that.
Sure, no problem.
All right, awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on. That's going to wrap it up for Skeptics Brewpub this week. I want to remind everybody, of course, that we're here every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Sometimes it's video, sometimes it's audio. It just kind of depends on how fickle sparky the computer is. And hate mail, if you want to send fan mail, hate mail, bomb threats, whatever, you can get me. My email address is brotherbrewer@skepticsbrewpub.com. You can find me also on Facebook at facebook.com/beer and blasphemy. I also have a Patreon account because my wife is threatening to pull the plug if I don't at least break even on this. And that's at patreon.com/skepticsbrewpub. And, of course, there's also the Twitter at brother_brewer. Next week, we're going to have the folks from Cellar Door Skeptics on to sit and talk with us again. So be sure to tune in for that episode, and hopefully I'll have the bugs ironed out of my system then. I'm hoping, please. But anyway, thanks again, Aiden, and we will see you back. We'll see everybody back here next week.
Thanks again. Bye, guys.
And that's going to do it for episode 41, of Skeptics Brewpub, the interview with Aiden McCool. It has been available on YouTube now for a couple of weeks, but I've just been having, of course, as y'all know, computer issues, and so I'm finally getting it up and onto Spreaker tonight. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm thinking that more than likely next week, Aiden will be back along with the dude from Uncle and another gentleman named Jude. I'm not going to use his last name for privacy reasons. And I believe Marissa McCool will be joining us as well. And we're just going to kind of have a roundtable discussion and basically shoot the shit for an hour or so. So in any case, until next time, remember, believe nothing that you hear, half of what you see, and never start a serious conversation without a 2-drink minimum. Good night, guys.
To Anacreon in heaven, where he sat in full glee, a few sons of harmony sent a petition that he their inspirer and patron would be. When this answer arrived from the jolly old Grecian, voice, fiddle, and flute no longer be mute. I'll lend you my name and inspire you to boot, and besides I'll instruct you like me to entwine the myrtle of Venus with Bacchus's vine. And besides I'll instruct you